Good morning, dear students. Students, this is the another part of the lesson, the birth, and the remaining part of the lesson will take 2 days. One is today, and one more days will take, and after that the lesson will be finished. And I think from this your whole soul books, Hornbill and Snapshot will be finished also, right? So you will make revision of these lessons. Further, we will start from the grammar portion, and definitely you will have the video from there, right? So students, first of all you will make revision all the lessons that you are getting, and then after we will start our grammar portions. Okay, so without making delay, let's get started with the lesson, right? Students, as he gazed at the still form, a severe horror passed over Andrew. After all that he had promised, his face heated with his own exertions, chilled suddenly, he hesitated, torn between his desire to attempt to resuscitate the child and his obligation towards the mother, who was herself in a desperate state. The dilemma was so urgent he did not solve it consciously. Blindly, instinctively, he gave the child to the nurse and turned his attention to Susan Morgan, who now lay collapsed, almost pulseless, and not yet out of the either upon her side. His haste was desperate, a frantic race against her ebbing strength. It took him only an instant to smash a glass ample and inject the medicine. Then they flung down the hypodermic syringe and worked unsparingly to restore the flaccid woman. After a few minutes of feverish effort, her heart strengthened. He saw that he might safely leave her. Her swung round in his hurt sleeves, his hair sticking to his damp brow. Right? Students, you will have to write the meaning of resuscitate, revive someone, right, from the unconsciousness. Ether, that is used for the anesthetic. Frantic means frantic, FRANTIC, frantic means excessively speed, right? Ebbing means gradually decrease. Hypodermic means related to the region immediately. Unsparingly means generous. And flaccid, FLACCID, flaccid means lifeless, right? So as he continued to look at the lifeless child, a shiver passed down his spine, while his face was heated because of the effort he put in. A wave of coldness held him. He was devastated, moreover, he was confused. He couldn't get himself to choose between the addressing the stillborn or the miserable mother. He could not make the decision consciously, so he intuitively addressed the mother first while giving the child to the nurse. Susan laid unconscious too, as the effect of the anesthesia still persisted. He put in all his efforts to bring her out of the desperate state even while her strength continued to weaken. He instantly broke the medicine glass to fill the syringe and inject it into her. He worked tirelessly to bring her to senses. After a moment, when he was assured that she was safe and her body was beginning to regain its strength, he turned his attention to the child. His hair was all over his sweetie face, but he did not waste another moment. Where the child? The midwife made a frightened gesture. She had placed it beneath the bed. In a flash, Andrew knelt down, fishing amongst the sodden newspapers below the bed. He pulled out the child, and boy, perfectly formed. The limp, warm body was white and soft as tallow. The crowd hastily slashed lay like a broken stem. The skin was of a lovely texture, smooth and tender. The head lolled on the thin neck, the limbs seemed boneless. Right? So here the meaning of sodden, S-O-D-D-E-N, means saturated with liquids, even especially water. Tallow means T-A-L-L-O-W, the hard fat of animals, and melted and used to make soaps, right? You can also call it blubber like. Hastily means with excessive speed. Slashed, S-L-A-S-H-E-D, slashed means slit, right? Lolled, L-O-L-L-E-D, lolled means hang loosely. So Andrew hastened and asked the midwife about the child. The midwife got anxious and asked him where the child was. She had kept it under the bed. Without wasting another moment, Andrew took the child out, and it was a boy in perfect shape with flawless skin. His body was warm and his skin was extremely soft. The head hung loosely on his weak neck, and the cord was hanging too from his body. His limbs felt boneless because the bones were so soft. Right? Now, still kneeling, Andrew stared at the child with haggard frown. The whiteness meant only one thing: asphyxia, pallida, and his mind, unnaturally tense, raced back to the case he once had seen in the Samaritan, to the treatment that had been used instantly. He was on his feet. So, get me hot water and cold water. Get me hot water and cold water. He threw out to the nurse, and basins too. Quick, quick. Right? But the doctor, she faltered, her eyes on the pallid body of the child. Quick, he shouted. You will have to write the meaning of haggard, H-A-G-G-A-R-D. Right? The meaning of this will be looking exhausted and unwell. Right? Asphyxia means a condition arising when the body is having a lack of oxygen. You can also call it the causing unconsciousness. Right? Meaning of pallida, P-A-L-L-I-D-A, pallida. This is the suffocation or unconscious condition caused by lack of oxygen. Faltered means lose strength, and pallid, P-A-L-L-I-D, means pale, typically because of poor health. Right? So, still bent to take the child out from beneath the bed, Andrew glared at the child. He observed him and thought about the reasons he was so white. He knew that it could only be case of oxygen deprivation because he had seen a similar case in Samaritan. He focused on treatment that was used. He instantly stood up and instructed the nurse to bring in hot water and cold water in separate tubes. The nurse hesitated, but for the moment she thought the efforts were useless, but the doctor hastened and shouted on her to get it done instantly. Snatching a blanket, he laid the child upon it and began the special method of respiration. The basin arrived over the big iron kettle. Frantically, he splashed a cold water into the one basin, and into the other he mixed water as hot as his hand could bear. Then, like some crazy juggler, he hurried the child between the two, now plunging it into the icy, now into the steaming bath. Ewer means a large jug and with a wide mouth, right? Plunging means falling steeply. While she had gone to take what he told her to, Andrew grabbed a blanket and laid the child on it. While he performed the unique respiration method, the nurse arrived with the necessary items. He began with the procedure instantly. Into one basin he put cold and another hot. He put hot water at the temperature he could bear, and the next moment he was seen dipping the child into those basins. One after another, he continued doing it. 15 minutes passed. Sweat was now running into Andrew's eyes, blinding him. One of his sleeves hung down, dripping. His breath came pantingly, but no breath came from the lax body of the child. A desperate sense of defeat pressed on him, a raging hopelessness. He felt the midwife watching him in stark consternation, while there, pressed back against the wall where she had all the time remained, her hand pressed to her throat, uttering no sound. Her eyes burning upon him was the old woman. He remembered her longing for a grandchild as great as had been her daughter's longing for this child, all dashed away, now futile beyond remedy. Right? And now write the meaning of stark. Stark means complete. STARK. Stark means complete. And consternation means a feeling of an anxiety. Right? So he did the procedure about 15 minutes, and he was extremely tired and filled with sweat so much that it blinded him. One of his sleeves got unfolded and wet with water. He breathed heavily. Despite all his efforts, the child still lay lifeless. He felt that he had failed, and suddenly all his hope was beginning to fade. He could feel the nurse gazing upon him, disheartened. On the other hand, there was the old woman who couldn't utter a word. Her eyes was constantly fixated upon him. He instantly remembered how badly she wanted a grandchild. Moreover, he remembered her daughter was waiting for one. It was all a waste. Right? So, dear students, as you see, the lesson is about to finish, but tomorrow we will finish it. Right? In the next video. So, wait for the tomorrow. Up to the time, thank you. Have a nice day.